Hello, everyone. It's Jerry at the Fledge, and welcome to another episode of Every Damn Day. And today I'm sitting in the sanctuary with my guest. We're facing James Bignall's sweet painting, but it probably has a glare on it, so sorry about that. We're going to fix the lighting, I hope, this weekend so it doesn't glare because it's beautiful. And also want to give a shout out to the MSU Foundation, Spartan Innovations, and everyone over there that is pushing or helping to push the region forward with entrepreneurialism. So my guest today, David HESS. How you doing today, David?
I'm doing good. Thank you for having me here.
So who would you like to give a shout out to?
I guess real quick, I'd like to give a shout out to my family, specifically my wife. She's kind of made my whole podcast happen. I do it in my basement. So then whenever I have guests on, she has to take the kids outside or get them out of the house. So.
Get off the internet, don't slow down my speed, all that stuff.
Yeah.
So how long you been married?
4 years. We've been together for 8. We have
nice.
2 children together.
I had my 23rd anniversary.
Oh, wow. Congrats.
On the 8th of August. So
congrats.
Yeah, thank you. It's I have no advice. I have no idea how we made it this far, but we did. So let's get into your life a little bit. Where were you born and raised and went to school? I love elementary schools and stuff like that. So
well, that's a long story. I was born and raised in Lake Worth, Florida. And I guess I moved up here when I was 9. I moved to Lansing, the Lansing area when I was 9. And I don't know, how much do you want to get into that?
Yeah.
Because that kind of births the story of the podcast a little bit.
Huh?
My story births the story of the podcast, so I don't know how much you want to get into.
Yeah, that's exactly what I want to talk about.
So I was born and raised in Lake Worth, Florida, and it wasn't a great situation. My mom had married somebody at a very young age. Oh, she got together with my dad at a very young age. She had my brother, Michael, and I. And my dad was really abusive to her. And so she eventually left him, but then ended up with another abusive guy. And he was extremely abusive to my brother, Michael. At one point, he had beat him from the back of his neck to his feet. And his back side was black and blue. And my mom had failed to report it. So eventually a family friend, after a couple of weeks, was like, you need to report this. Otherwise, I'm going to, you're going to lose your children. So she eventually did. And because she had waited so long, the police were like, well, you need to leave him and you need to go where your family is. So we had family in Lansing, Michigan. So we came here, and she only had $400 to her name. She had 4 children. And I just remember like sitting in the van eating packets of ramen noodles because we didn't have any money for food or anything. But we finally made it to Michigan, and we didn't have anywhere to go. So we ended up staying in a homeless shelter in near St. John's. And eventually, after being there for a few months, they kicked us out because we weren't really making any progress with our stay. Like we're having somewhere permanent to stay, or my mom having a job. So so we came to Lansing, and we were homeless at that point. I remember sleeping in our van, and eventually the Red Cross put us up in a hotel, and we started going to school here in Lansing, which I don't think the school's here anymore. It's I can't remember the name, but it was right down by the towers.
Okay.
They had a big like
Morris River.
Morris River.
Yeah.
Rivers.
Something like that.
I don't remember.
I can't remember the name either, but I know that I think it's something else now.
Yeah, I believe
think
so.
They tore it down.
No. So yeah, we were going to that school while staying in a hotel that was near there. And every single night, because we didn't have any money or anything, we wouldn't eat during the day. So every night we would go down to the homeless shelter, the rescue mission, and have dinner. And I remember thinking that we weren't homeless. I'm like, man, all these people are like homeless.
Yeah.
And we're not. But so eventually we were at school one day, and social services came in and took my brother and I. And that was a life-changing day for me. And we were placed in foster care at that point. And then my brother Joseph and I had went into one home together. My brother Michael went into a separate home, and my sister went into a separate home as well.
How long ago was that?
Well, that was in 2001. I believe. So
because I think they're trying really hard to keep the families together now.
yeah,
But I think at the beginning they didn't do that so well.
no, they didn't.
Oh man.
Yeah, fortunately for me, my brother Joseph and I were able to stay together. So and he was younger than me, so I at least felt like I could protect him. Although I kind of wished my brother Michael and I had been placed together.
Was Michael older than you?
Yeah, he's a year
so
older than
middle?
me, so him and I were really close.
Yeah.
So
do you see Michael and I'm sorry, what was the other?
Joseph.
Joseph now?
Yep.
You guys are all close?
All the time. Yeah.
Oh, nice.
Yeah.
Nice. Do you see your mother?
Well, so
Oh, sorry.
no, I mean, that's part of the story, but I've made contact with her since I turned 18, and we don't really have a close relationship. It's not something that I don't think she wants, and I think it's due to all the trauma she had gone through.
Mm-hmm.
Although, me as a parent, I couldn't imagine doing what she has done. I mean, I'd want to be 100% part of my kids' lives, but that's her choice.
Yeah. And you have 2 kids.
I have 2. Yeah.
How old are they, if you don't mind?
My daughter is 6 and my son is 4.
Did I tell you just say I don't want to talk about that if I ask you something?
Oh, I'll talk about anything.
Okay.
I don't care.
6 and 4?
Yep.
Both daughters?
My daughter's 6 and my son's 4.
Oh, okay.
Yeah.
All right. So,
yeah.
The prime years.
Oh, yeah. Yeah, my son he's a madman. He likes to, he's crazy. Just.
Getting ready for school?
Yep.
The kids?
Yep.
So when you were in foster care, did you stay in Lansing or were you moved?
I was moved to Charlotte. My older brother and my sister stayed in Lansing. And so my brother Joseph and I moved to Charlotte. And we would come to Lansing once a week to visit our siblings or our mom. Mm-hmm. And that went on for a couple of years until eventually she gave up her rights. Yeah. And then we were all placed up for adoption. And then we were adopted by the families that we were, placed with. Yeah. So, and then that's kind of when life for me got a lot harder. My adopted mom had gotten really abusive. She went to jail for abusing me. There's so many different things I could mention there, but one day I was homeschooled. She kicked me in the stomach, and then I ran out crying. Obviously, I'm 11 years old, and she grabbed me and threw me into the refrigerator. And my dad had to come in and stop her. He laid on her just to get her to stop throwing her temper tantrum that she was, dishing out. And then he managed to call the police, and she ended up arrested that night. But you would have thought that would have kind of made things better, but it did for a short time. But then after she was off her probation period, she kind of went back to her old ways. But and then it kind of got worse from there. When I was 17, I had started dating a girl. She didn't like it, or both my parents didn't like it, and they made life for me very difficult. I started getting locked out of the house at night while going to school. I was going to school, working, part time, and I had a girlfriend, and just trying to maintain life. I ended up just extremely stressed out. I had bald spots on the back of my head because I was so stressed. And eventually a buddy of mine was like, dude, why are you putting up with that? He's like, come stay with me. He's like, well, make sure you get to school, make sure you get to work and all that. So literally that night we just went to my house and loaded up a couple clothes and my school books and whatever I needed, and we left. And I haven't been back since.
Was Joseph still there?
Yeah, he was there. And that was one reason why it was hard for me to leave, because I realized that it was my job to protect him, because, he was my younger brother. But at that point, I also realized that I'm not living a healthy lifestyle because I'm so stressed out. I needed to figure something out for myself.
Why do you think they would want to be foster parents and adopt kids if this is...
Well,
do you mind if I talk like this?
Okay. No, absolutely not. I mean, I think it was for various reasons. I think deep down they wanted to create an impact in the other kids' lives. In some aspects, I think it was for money. In other aspects, I definitely think that they shouldn't have been foster parents because mental illness was a big thing.
Mm-hmm.
I don't really know how much to talk about this, but
I want you to be comfortable. So
right.
Whatever you feel like talking about is fine.
I just want to say that I still have a good relationship with my dad. Him and I, there for a bit, didn't. But now that I'm an adult and we kind of were able to set things straight. So him and I have a good relationship now. But as far as my adopted mom, her and I don't. And I think that for her, mental illness was a big thing.
Yeah.
And because she would go into swings, she would be fine. She'd be like extra loving and caring. Then all of a sudden, the next day she'd flip.
So almost bipolar from
Yeah.
a manic to a depressive state.
Yeah.
Man. Did you? Man, I don't even know where to start. I'm sorry all of this happened.
No,
it seems like such a failure of the foster care system.
And I agree. And that's kind of one reason why I started my podcast. I'm giving it a quick plug.
No, go ahead, do it. Plug away. Let's move into.
So I host a podcast called Rising Above, and I guess where that came from is I felt that there was so much that happened in my life. I mean, obviously, I just explained a little brief synopsis of my life, but
you're still going to let me be on the podcast?
Yes, absolutely. So where the Rising Above came from is, I felt that there was so much that happened to me in my life, and I felt that I was at a point where I rose above everything that I'd gone through in my life. So I do the same thing. I lay my phone on the floor. And it kind of started with me wanting to raise awareness about the foster care system because I felt that I'd been let down so much by our local foster care system. Because there are certain times, like so many different times during the time where I lived there that I'd call and report it, everything that was going on myself. When I was leaving school, I'm trying to call and report, and they're like, yeah, we'll come out and investigate. But the problem is when you're a foster parent, they'll call the foster parent and be like, hey, we're coming out this day to investigate this thing. So that gives them time to get their story straight. Right, yeah. Exactly. But the thing is like if you were just some random person who's getting investigated by social services, they don't give you a heads up before they knock on your door. They just come out.
Yeah.
So I felt that there was so many different times I was let down by them. So that's where starting the podcast came in. And it just kind of turned into me interviewing people who are in foster care. And then it kind of turned into me interviewing like business owners and nonprofit people who run nonprofits here in town. And
I'm a 3-for-1. I used to be a foster parent.
Really?
Mm-hmm.
Wow. Tell me about that.
You want me to tell you right now?
Yeah,
or let's
absolutely.
go on your podcast and tell it. Well, I had a daughter who was a heroin addict who had kids. So we fostered our grandsons while she was going through that. And she eventually lost the rights because her addiction was very powerful, actually. And it eventually killed her. So she died of a fentanyl overdose. It's okay. So I have a lot of experience with the foster care system, with CPS, on a good side and a bad side.
So what is your opinions on the foster care system?
I think that there are some heroes out there that really care about kids, but I think there's a ton of abuse within the system, and I think that it's overwhelmed, and they close their eyes to it. They know what's happening. But
there's nothing they can do because of funding. Right. Funding's an issue, and they don't have enough housing. And
And I always, I think that there's a kid named Lansing Sanchez that does a great story about being a foster kid. And really, like talking about a garbage bag kid, right? You throw all your shit in a garbage bag, and how does that make you feel, because, all my stuff is garbage, I'm garbage. And it's just a metaphor for, something that's so, you didn't do anything. This isn't your fault yet. Look at all of that you went through.
Yeah.
Were there times that you felt like, what am I doing wrong?
I don't know if I ever thought that. I think because of my personality, it's kind of my personality to want to take care of everybody.
Yeah.
And with my mom, I kind of started taking on like a parental role as far as my other siblings. So like while we were in foster care and she was trying to get us back still, I tried to like, I guess, help her out, like, and make her seem better than what she was. And I knew that, it was on her, and just, she failed at it. Yeah. But like going back to the black trash bag thing, I remember when we went into the agency, when they picked us up at school and they were bringing us to meet our foster parents, we had walked up the stairs at St. Vincent's, and our clothes were just spread on both sides of the stairway going up. And they're spread out because there's cockroaches in our clothes. And that was probably one of the most embarrassing, and like, I guess it's like something that's stuck in my head since then.
Yeah.
I mean, literally your underwear is laying out for everybody to see. So
have you, this is a personal question, but did you have to go through therapy and stuff? Have you done that to help resolve some things?
I went through therapy while I was in the foster care system quite a bit. And I mean, it didn't really help because I was trying to lie to cover up for my
making
mom.
Up a story to make everything.
And so it didn't really help. And then as I got older, like after I'd moved out and everything, I never really went to therapy, just kind of dealt with things as they came. Mm-hmm. But eventually it kind of came to a head, and I had to go see a therapist and work everything out. And I'm glad I did it. I had a friend who committed suicide, and I think that's kind of what triggered me in going into this emotional state of being. So,
so my guest yesterday and I talked a lot about everybody should do therapy. You don't have to do it every week or whatever, but at least once a year, have a mental checkup, maybe a few weeks of therapy.
Decompress a little bit.
Yeah. I really think that, for all kinds of stigma reasons, we think that therapy is a weakness or something like that. And I think it's just like working out. It's just like have someone to talk to.
You have to talk. You have to have a good form of communication with somebody. And oftentimes like a therapist can help you think about things in a different way, and that's what really helped me.
So let's talk a little bit, or let's talk a lot more about Rising Above podcast. What you said the theme was, it started out as foster kids and kind of got into business. And how many episodes? Or go ahead.
Well, so I have, I think, almost 30 episodes out. It started off, like I said, me interviewing people who work in the foster care system, or people who were placed in foster care, or anybody around the foster care system. I wanted to know more about the system itself. So I'm still interested in interviewing people,
so let's put a call out. Who would you like to reach out to you?
Anybody who wants to share their story, for one, about the foster care system, whether you were placed in it, or if you were, adopted, or if you're a social worker. I just want to learn more, and I kind of want the general public to be able to be more aware of the lack of resources around the foster care system. So I really haven't actually interviewed too many people, but with the foster care system, but it kind of branched off from there into people who are, addicted to things, or business owners, nonprofits, stuff like that.
That support the
foster care system?
Yeah.
No, not necessarily, just anything. Because Rising Above isn't just like overcoming a traumatic experience. It's about starting a business, and it's not necessarily easy to start a business, but it's inspirational to hear somebody who was able to start at the bottom and then work their way through it, and now they have a successful business. So it's a platform for business owners to come on and like talk about that process and what it was like for them. And I find that the podcast is supposed to be an inspirational tool for people. And I find that, having people on of all these different backgrounds has been inspiring.
So if someone wants to come on your show, how do they reach out to you? Do you want to put an email out, or
they can email me? They can find me on social media and contact me through social media.
Which do you prefer?
Either's fine.
All right.
Yeah. Email,
So,
Rising Above with David Hess at gmail.com. And then on social media, it's Dave_Hess27 on Instagram, and Rising Above Podcast on Facebook, or David Hess on Facebook.
okay. More. How many? I'm sorry. How do you publish your podcast? Where can we listen to it?
It's everywhere on audio. I use Anchor, and it goes out onto Apple, Google, Spotify.
Okay.
I think most of my listeners are on Spotify and Apple.
Yeah, I'm going to strip the audio off from all of these and publish them next year too.
Cool.
On the different platforms. So our friend Erica suggested that Lakeisha comes on to your show, and Lakeisha responded back, so she's going to contact you soon. So
That's
you've
cool.
got somebody I think that is relevant in
Cool.
foster care. So we
Awesome.
got one so far. I almost clicked in broadcast. So what else? What are we forgetting to talk about? What do you want to tell us about the podcast? Are there any other stories that you'd like to put in there?
No, I mean, I guess I just want to say, if you have an inspiring or motivating story, or you feel that like you have a story to share, just get a hold of me, and I'll try to have you on.
Hey, Joe Walker, hook this guy up with some guests, because he's writing thisent.com and puts inspiring stories out.
Oh, cool.
Maybe we can get you some more guests too, or some more fodder, I guess, for your podcast.
Yeah, that'd be cool.
What's your end game here? Are you trying to make money? Are you trying to?
Well, I would like to do it full time eventually. I guess right now I don't really have an end game. I'm just doing it.
Yeah.
And I'm enjoying the process. It's a slow going process, as you know, and it's very time consuming to be able to have people come on, and then because it's not just that, you have to edit and upload, and it takes a lot of time.
Not me. You see, I just throw everything out. I don't edit anything. We're going to next year. But,
that's a nice thing. You just throw it out there and don't have to worry about it. But eventually I would like to be able to maybe have some sponsors. That way I can possibly get a more formal studio, and then have somebody be able to control my camera. So I'll be able to pay somebody to help operate things. And that's kind of my goal.
All right. That sounds awesome. I do not want to do this every damn day for the rest of my life, so I will not be following that path for sure. What else do you do? You make a living doing something?
I work at General Motors, so I'm currently laid off due to the chip shortage. Yeah. So since I've been laid off, I've been trying to bust out podcasts as much as possible.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So do you know how much longer you're laid off? Because I think they extended it, right?
Yeah. Every week they seem to extend it another week. So we should find out, I think, on Wednesday if they're going to extend it for next week. But as of right now, we're supposed to go back on the 26th.
Do you blame cryptocurrency for the shortage?
I don't know how it would be cryptocurrencies.
The miners use the same chips in a lot of cases. So the factories are like the gaming chips, and all of these have some sort of relationship.
I didn't know that. Yeah, I guess I don't have anybody to blame but COVID.
Yeah, that's a bad one too. So I think they're also getting backed up in customs all over the world. And just everything's slow.
Yeah.
Do you like being laid off like that?
I'm loving it. Loving it. We, for the last 4 years, have worked nonstop overtime, and it's been like 9 hours every single day, Monday through Saturday. And it's.
What car are you making?
The Buick Enclave and the Chevy Traverse.
Oh, nice. Yeah. Are you working on the line, or
Yep.
are you?
Yep. I'm an assembly worker.
Yeah. Is that fun?
It's not bad if you want to be able to just throw in headphones and do your job and not worry about anything else. But as far as like it being pretty repetitive, it's boring. Yeah.
How long have you been doing that?
For 8 years.
Okay.
Yeah.
All right. What else? You must do something else. Play softball or you?
No, I work out. I do podcasts. I have kids, and I work. That's pretty much my life.
Sounds like enough, right?
Yeah, it's a lot.
Because a 4 and a 6-year-old, there's a lot to do there.
Yeah, absolutely.
But you're lucky though too, because you get to be with them a lot, right?
Right now, yes.
Yeah. When you're working, is it long days too?
Yeah, it's 9 hours every day. So we don't start until 6:30 in the morning, and we end at 4 o'clock in the afternoon. So it's long days.
What would you say? So, what's your mission here? How would you summarize that?
My mission, as far as the podcast,
yes, or just you and what you're doing in general.
I want to be as genuine as possible, and I hope that through me telling my story and having people on, people can see that. And I guess my overall mission would be to help as many people get their stories out there.
And what do you do every damn day to push that mission forward?
I work out. It helps keep me sane, and it helps kind of give me a stable base of who I am as a person. Do you go to a gym and lift weights? And all I have a gym at home.
Okay.
Yeah. Yeah. With kids, I don't have time to go to the gym.
I always think it's funny that somebody pays somebody to like mow their lawn, and then they buy a gym membership, and I'm like, why don't you just mow your lawn and then do a couple other things?
Right.
But I think some people need that. But I get my workout here.
Yeah,
moving pews and shit. So, so we daisy chain these shows together, and yesterday on the show, I'm going to go back actually. I feel like we haven't talked enough about your story. Do you feel like you have?
Yeah, let's go back.
Because we talk about foster care, but then there's the transition to adoption too, which I also found that process to be sort of evil.
It was. I talk about this in my podcast. I believe I talk about it in my podcast, but I actually didn't really want to be adopted because of the situation that I was living in, but I was being told also that if I wasn't adopted by them, that I would probably be placed in a separate home. And I didn't want to be split up from my brother because I felt like it was my duty to take care of him. And so I begged and begged and begged my dad to agree to adopt me because my mom was already on board. My adopted mom was on board to adopt us. And so I begged and begged and begged, and finally he agreed. And, I was so happy. But yeah, it was kind of a thing that wasn't really something I wanted to do. But
was that like through an agency like Bethany Christian Services or something?
It was St. Vincent's.
St. Vincent's, yeah. I never dealt with St. Vincent's, and I'm not going to punch up during my podcast, but if you heard that name I just said, I am not friends with that organization at all. Bethany Christian Services. I find them to be like, I'm going to use this metaphor, not that foster kids are puppies, but like a puppy mill almost strategy where they only care about the money. And money gets in the way on the wrong side of this. The money should be for the kids, and it should be building things up. But I don't know. I have a lot of opinions about this. You broke the cycle.
I did.
I feel like it, right?
I mean, that was one thing I hated about foster care is the stigmas that are attached to it. Like, he's in foster care, so he's probably not going to accomplish this in life. He's probably not going to go to college. He's going to be a drug addict, or all these things. And I tried real hard to not be those things, and it seemed to work out for me. I
remember when I was a kid, and like if you knew someone that was in foster care, the first assumption was they did something, that the kid was bad, or the kid had committed a crime, or did something to their parents or something. I always thought that's what foster care was until I grew up and understood it more.
And there's a lot of shame around it too, like being a foster kid. It's shameful coming into like a new school and people not knowing you, and they're like, where'd you come from? I previously lived in Florida. Well, why are you here? I'm in foster care. Like, oh, like, why are you in foster care?
Yeah.
There's a stigma attached to that.
Do you think that teachers, like, you could feel that stigma?
Yeah.
And they had, it goes back to the trash bag, right?
Right.
It's just trash. It's a trash life. It's a trash kid. It's a trash.
Yeah, I mean, because teachers look at you like, oh, you're probably a troubled kid, and we're going to have to deal with them a lot, and you're going to be here for a short time. You're just another number that's going to come in and out of here. And
were you able to be successful in school, or was it super difficult?
School's always difficult for me, and that was the thing when I went into foster care. I really wasn't that great at like math particularly, and my adopted mom had actually worked with me to get me back on track and where I needed to be. She had made sure I was, studying every single day, and she was doing flashcards and whatnot with me. So she did work hard at that, and I do have to give her props for that.
Well, it makes me think of, parents and teachers and whatnot. They look at these kids that are really troubled. My wife's a teacher. She just went from Patton Gill to Dwight Rich.
Okay.
But some of the stories that the kids come into school and tell her, and then she has to report.
Right.
And we don't necessarily love this system, but she's a mandated reporter, so she has to report that.
Yeah.
It's just, I don't know how kids survive this. And I'm really glad that you don't feel like it was you, and that you don't feel like you caused this, I guess.
Right.
And how did you get over that? I mean, was there an epiphany that you had, or did you just know this ain't me?
I just knew it wasn't me, and I knew that I knew the situation that we grew up in wasn't. I've always wanted more for my life. I at one point wanted to go to college and go to school and get educated, but I never did.
You still can?
I still can. But that's not my main goal right now. So I have a pretty good life working at GM, and I don't want that to be long-term, but we'll figure it out as time goes.
35 years later, you got a boat and a cottage and all these things.
I hope not. So yeah, I realized that I didn't want whatever happened to my mom to be my life. And I didn't want any of the stereotypes that went along with foster care, being a foster kid, to be me. I didn't want to be any of those stereotypes. So I fought really hard to go against the grain, I guess.
Yeah.
Seems that I have.
Well, I think you're amazing. And
Thank you.
did it take a lot to tell that story the first time?
Yeah, the first time, if you go back and listen to my podcast, another plug for the Rise and Above podcast.
Rise and Above podcast. Let's plug it as much as we can.
It's terrible because it's one of my first episodes, so please just listen to it and don't judge. But it was difficult because I had to sit down on my couch and think about where did it all start, and kind of had to put myself into that emotional space of like how I felt, and it wasn't easy. I think I started the podcast like 5 different times. I started and would end it, and started and ended.
I can't remember if I cried yesterday, but I cry on my podcast sometimes.
There's nothing wrong with that.
There isn't anything wrong with that, and I'm so happy you just said that. And I want to say it to the rest of the men out there. It's okay to be vulnerable, because that's where your strength comes from.
Yeah.
It doesn't come from the strength you have. Your new strength comes from your vulnerability.
I agree.
Have you found that? Yeah, you agree.
Yeah, I had a guy on my podcast who had been in jail for like 20 prison and for like 24, almost 27 years, I think. And him telling his story, like, it almost made me cry. I didn't cry, but I wanted to, like, because the emotions were there. But yeah, it's okay to cry if necessary.
That's right. That's interesting. I wonder if it's the guy that's on the show tomorrow.
What's his name?
Adam Grant.
Nope.
But we'll get to him in a second. So let's go on a little bit. We daisy chain the shows together. Yesterday on the show, I had Edward Smith. He's a local artist. He's a Lansing Eastern grad. He was a prison guard for a while, so he knows that side of it. And his question for you is, where do you see yourself in 5 years?
That's a tough question because I'm always wanting to do something different. And my wife hates it because I change my mind all the time on things.
Adult ADHD, that's what we got.
I guess in 5 years, I still want to be doing the podcast. I hope to have 500 plus episodes out. And I hope to have a studio and maybe a tech person. And I hope that I'm not working at GM still. I don't know if that's exactly my plan, but
yeah. Well, that sounds good. Sounds great. I want to just put a couple comments up on the screen. Lakeisha is talking about, I absolutely hate the trash bag phenomenon. I mean, it's suitcases. Get us suitcases. Get the foster care people suitcases.
There's actually some people out there doing GoFundMes for foster kids that to get rid of the black trash bags and to help them buy suitcases and things that are needed for when you go to a new home.
I can't remember some of the organizations that help.
I can't remember.
We got to shout them out. Someone in the crowd knows. Come tell us what it is. And then Jeremy Hurt, you must know him. Yep. I think
he was on my podcast.
He said, so glad to see David on here. His podcast has some great content. And he must have been talking about his own episode. So tomorrow on the show, I have a gentleman named Adam Grant, who was, he works for The Nation Outside now, and he's teaming up with us in Power and Passion to do ex-offender success work. And what question would you like to pass on to him?
I guess, what is his favorite podcast to listen to?
Yeah, and so let me ask you, what is your favorite podcast to listen to?
Well, when I'm at work, I usually run out of podcasts to listen to because that's all I do all day. But I typically like to listen to the Rogan podcast, JRE, and I like to listen to anything Wandery. Wandery does a really good job as far as telling stories, so I like to listen to those.
All right. So I told you before the show that there weren't any wrong answers. It's your own podcast or it's my podcast. Those are the only two choices. No,
yeah, that's right.
Do you listen to your own podcast?
I don't. No, I don't. I put episodes out and then I post and ghost. That's it.
So my dirty secret for today is that I have never listened to a podcast unless somebody else has had it on. Oh, one of my podcasts, unless someone else has had it on afterwards.
Wow.
So I don't want to start listening until September 12th. So I hate my own voice.
I do too.
That's like everybody, I think. And then my dad was always ragging on me because I would get all, moving around all the time. You don't have video on yours.
Nope,
right?
I do. It's on YouTube as well.
Oh, okay. I did hear you say YouTube. Sorry about that.
No, you're right.
So happiness, sadness, joy, hope, or love. Which word or words would you like to talk about?
Hope. I think as long as you can hope for the future and hope for a better life, you can make it happen as long as you're willing to put in the work as well.
At your lowest time as a foster kid, or even as an adopted kid, did you ever feel like there was zero hope?
Nope. I didn't. No, the thing that got me through was hoping for one day that I would be able to find my mom, my biological mom, because her and I were always so close. And I was able to do that when I had turned 18. So yeah, that hope is what got me through.
I started with that word because, number one, most entrepreneurs are optimists, so they love the word hope.
Yeah.
But I always think about a Russian phrase that says hope is the last to die, because once hope is gone, you can't even raise your head anymore, right? You just kind of lay there and die. And I think sometimes people say, yes, I was there where there was zero hope, but I can't even imagine that. Then how did you get up if there was no hope there? I can imagine, we've got across the street substance use disorder. I can imagine, 27% of us live below the poverty line. I can see where hope is almost gone, But if
Right.
it's truly gone, then why do you take that next step? And I
Right.
think it can only be because of hope.
Yeah, absolutely.
What gives you hope?
Now what gives me hope? I don't know. I guess I don't know. I don't have an answer.
Yeah, your kids for sure.
Kids definitely, and the fact that I want to give them a better life, and I want them to have better than what I had, and I guess I hope for the future, a better future for them.
I'm so happy you survived through this and you're here to
Thank you.
tell the story. And I can't thank you enough for coming on and being vulnerable and telling that story.
Mhm.
And I would highly recommend listening to David's podcast, because I can just tell from the energy, from what you're trying to do, this is going, you said the first ones were a little rough. This
Yeah,
is going to get
yeah.
better and better and be
Yeah.
a significant podcast.
It's a process, and that's one thing I've had to learn with the whole podcast is literally everything. I've had to learn how to work the mics, the audio system, cameras, all that. So it's been a work in progress, and each episode I think gets better.
I woke up from a dream one morning and came into a 9 a.m. meeting. Erica was actually in the meeting, and so was Jeremy Hurt, I think. And I said, I'm going to do this new podcast. What do you guys think?
Oh, wow.
And that was at 9 a.m. And by 2 p.m. we did the first one, and that was
Wow.
340 days ago.
Wow.
So I had to learn everything. And just did it. So
Yeah,
fell
I mean,
forward fast.
That's what you have to do. If there's something that you want to chase in life, you just have to do it. You can't keep talking about it. This is what I want to do one day, because eventually you're not going to.
I call that the Thanksgiving entrepreneurs. They show up every Thanksgiving they got the best app for something and the best solution for something, and they never do shit.
Yeah.
They just talk about it. Because if they take a step and it fails, what they're going to talk about at Thanksgiving? Right. But if you never take the step and it doesn't fail, then it's always a hope. It's
Right.
always a dream.
Yeah.
So thanks for making it happen.
Yeah, absolutely.
All right, real quick, every damn day at 2 p.m. Tomorrow we'll have Adam Grant from The Nation Outside. So set a reminder and stay tuned for that, or not stay tuned. Don't stay on your computer all day. Go do something outside. But see us tomorrow. And thank you again. I think it's very, very important, especially buff men that work out and stuff, to be vulnerable. It helps other men. And thanks for coming and doing that.
Yep, thank you.
What would you like to take us out with?
I guess always stay hopeful.
And there we go. Thank you, everyone. We love you. Stay hopeful.
See you.
And we will see you